Where's the Salt&Pepper come from? In high school, we used to call it that. And two years younger, we played for the first. Good morning, live, Delray Beach Golf Club, Delray Beach, Florida, on another crappy South Florida day. It's about 82 degrees and sunny. The club is very crowded today. Good morning, Pepper.
Good morning, Salt. Great day yesterday. As I said earlier in our introduction, a lot of college basketball on. We had the Genesis Golf, and it was a great afternoon. Took Chris, her grandson, to the mall, and he played on the little jungle gym there with the kids, and we had a great time.
We just got a notification that there's visual problems. If somebody can just let us know that this is working fine before we get going here. But Crystal had just called about that there's a black screen, but I don't know what.
Is that on the Instagram?
I'm not sure, but everything is looking good here, and pretty excited about today. Right? Had a good week.
Oh, great week. We unfortunately we lost in the quarterfinals of the regionals after blowing out a team by 30 points. We came back 2 nights later, and actually 1 night later, and we just had a down game all around. So disappointment for the kids, especially our 4 seniors. But as we always tell all the kids, we're here for you, and keep working hard, and who knows what the future holds.
So before we kind of get into our first guest in a few minutes here, we want to reach out to the Jacob Companies, Don Perry. It's a big day for Don, but the Jacob Companies, the preeminent builder of stadium venues, hospitals, schools, luxury homes, you name it. Jacob Companies builds it. But we want to wish him good luck today. Don owns the Rick Ware Racing Team, and he's got 2 cars in the Daytona 500. Last year, his car finished in 7th, and he's got 2 cars in. One's a Chevy, one's a Ford. Cody Ware is driving the Chevy, I believe, and Riley Herbst, if I'm saying that right, is driving the Ford. So, Don, all the best to you today. Thanks for being the main sponsor to our show. We also want to. You got your Let's Go Golf wear today.
Well, I don't know if it's golf wear. This is something I can wear out to the club or something that night. But Crystal already warned me. With that shirt on, I got to stay away from any single women. So I got to just make sure I wear it on the show and get out of it quick.
Well, Serge Ramos is one of the owners, and we thank him for providing the wardrobe. They have a black hat here for all of our Central New York and Upstate New York golf clubs, the Twin Ponds and Hidden Valley and Valley Views and Pine Hills, and I don't know. This is somebody that you want to connect with. So it's letsgogolfwear.com. Let me put that up here as a banner. But it's letsgogolfwear.com. So we thank Serge. You got a pretty great shirt today.
I love the color. I love the design. It's really Florida.
Yeah,
I got the iguanas on there and the palm trees. So I'm living a dream.
Bold and brash and comfortable, especially in the summer months when it's 100 degrees. You want something that's gonna keep you dry. So
let you breathe a little bit.
This is really, really good. But anyways, really, really quick. Tiger, Genesis, final round. People wrote him off after the second round, talking about, his body breaking down again, and can he go 4 rounds? I'm still amazed, put aside everything else, just the fact that he does have a broken body, but to go out there and striping the ball the way he's doing it, right? I think he shortened up his stance to compensate. I mean, I'm just blown away.
Well, you can see him limping around a little bit, but I think, all in all, he has the determination. And as he said himself, all the people that's working with him, his doctors, his trainers, and everything got him to where he was this weekend in order to play, 4 rounds of 18 holes. So hopefully, he'll do better today. He's -4 at the moment, and he's looking at the leaders, but he's a long way off. I think he's maybe 11 off or 10 off the leader. So.
Yeah, I think
it happened.
I think I heard him after the second round, and he said he left 5 or 6 shots out there. He said he wasn't making any putts, but yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the only thing he's playing for right now are the majors. So
yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the Daytona 500 and our main sponsor behind us, Jacob Companies. Don, if you're watching, good luck. Salt&Pepper are still waiting on you to fly us out to one of your NASCAR coming up this year.
Of course.
Hey, 7th last year. Hopefully one of your cars, competes.
For the championship. Yes.
For the championship. Your alma mater, my alma mater, our high school alma mater. Let's talk with Syracuse real quick. I watched that game yesterday.
Well, it wasn't much of a game. I talked to Coach Fine yesterday after the game, and actually at halftime, and it was kind of disappointing. I understand the guys are doing the best they can; they're trying as hard as they can, but scouting reports and practice is very important. And to be playing the zone for 26 games and not understand the principles of the zone, it's mind-boggling. And I just got a call from Roosevelt Boyd just before we went on the show, and he's got the same thinking as Bernie and I. Guys just don't get in the right positions. They don't recognize where the shooters are, and offensively, we have no offense. We do a high screen and hand off, and whoever gets the ball, just dribbles the ball around, and then we're the clock's running out. We got to take a quick shot. So hopefully the guys mature a little bit for end of the season play, postseason play, and getting ready for hopefully some type of postseason tournament.
Yeah, here's my thing, and when you're down, and I know they go to the trap, but there's a 30-second clock, and if you're down 4 possessions, you essentially have 180 seconds to make that up, right? Mm-hmm. Like if the opposing team just doesn't make a shot, but just uses the 30-second clock, if you don't get the trap, you can't be running in the zone trying to trap, and that's just my thing. I just don't get that. I never did, especially when you're behind. You got to go man to some capacity.
Well, Syracuse's zone is, you're trapped in different situations and different positions on the floor. You can trap when the ball comes in bounds. You have half court. You can trap at the wing and trap in the corners. We just didn't prevent the ball from going inside to the high post, and the baseline guys just didn't rotate fast enough. I said after when you press, if the ball gets past you, you got to sprint down the floor and get back into the middle of the lane and then come out and find people. We just didn't run out and find people on 3-point shots.
Yeah, so my alma mater finished another great season, 8-14. It's really disheartening year after year. I think last year or 2 years ago they had an up year, but for that iconic school coming out with a documentary this year. Something's got to be done. I'm tired of hearing excuses as an alum and, being part of building that up to what was basically a dynasty in the 70s and 80s. It's just really, really disheartening. If anybody up in Potsdam is hearing this, stop using excuses and do what Jerry Welsh has done. You just, did a documentary on him and he talked about why he was successful. Apply those same principles. It's ridiculous to sit here year after year and follow my alma mater and, 8 games. I mean, come on.
There's a lot of kids out there that, they have the wrong mentality about college basketball. Everybody thinks that it's only Division I. If you go through the NBA, there's a lot of players that play Division II, Division III basketball, junior college basketball. Some players that haven't played college at all that are playing in the NBA. So kids have got to get out of their minds that they have to go to one of these major colleges in order to be successful. You can learn a lot from any coach if you listen, you pay attention, and you do the things that they're trying to teach you to do to make you a better player and to help your team win games.
And the last thing is our high school alma mater. I don't know if they finished the year with more than 2 wins or not. I think they might have had 5. But we just did a show last week on our greatest win, beating the number 1 team in the country when we played DeMatha. And I get the dynamics of the area and people moving out. But, I did some research. The big game this week in the area was Rome versus Proctor. 8 and 9 in the sectionals. And, when I see my team losing to Dodgeville or playing to Dodgeville, do you think anything can be done? I know Mike Dirk did all he could to keep it at kind of the level we were used to, but.
Well, it's tough, because as you know, we've said before on our show, we had a big feeder program for Notre Dame High School. We had like 16 parochial grammar schools in the city of Utica or the surrounding area that participated in the CYO League, that a lot of those kids that were talented in those elementary school teams went on to play at Notre Dame. And nothing against any coach. You're only as good as your players are. And you've got to be able to get through to your players in order to understand all the nonsense you watch on TV isn't reality unless you go out and you put the work in. And I tell the kids all the time, you're not going to be a great player just by showing up and walking on the floor. You've got to put the work in on your own, not just at practice. Get out there, get off the video games, get off your cell phones, whatever you're doing, get outside and play ball. We played basketball all year long outside during the winter. We shoveled the courts off. We went to the boys' club, the neighborhood center, the YMCA. We played in all those venues in order to get better. But in saying that, we didn't have the video games and we didn't have the cell phones. So, those are things where, your parents kicked you out of the house, to go play sports.
I get that, but the other piece to that too, though, for the most part, we used to get the best players in the surrounding towns and cities. Yeah, we had the feeder, but that's Notre Dame that we knew, right? That everybody wanted to go there.
Well, I mean, and I hate to keep saying about when we were in school and back in the 70s and 80s, but we also had at every level in the COL, we had good coaches. Every school had a good coach that took advantage of the talent that he had and groomed the players to be able to compete together.
Hey, as we close out the first segment here, heartfelt condolences to the Devins family again. Mike Devins, if you haven't heard, had passed. Mike was a teammate of mine, just coming off of their devastating loss of Bob, who was a coach of mine.
Yes.
And, just thoughts and prayers go out to Chris and your family. I know the Devins legacy is huge, but, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, as you said, I played with Mike for 2 years at Notre Dame, and Mike and I were good friends. We played together during the summers and everything. And then his brother Bob, who coached us at Notre Dame, and we all just came to be great friends. And it's like one big family when you're playing sports and that. And his brother Bernie and I played together. And JV and varsity at Notre Dame. So, I've got big ties with the family. Chris and I have played in, the summers, and we had some battles in rec leagues and things like that. But, the family ties will always be there. And, our prayers and blessings goes out to the Devens family.
Okay, with that, we're pretty grateful actually and excited to bring on our live studio guest, Doug Maclean, who came off the golf. Come on, Doug, come up here and sit down here. Welcome to Salt&Pepper.
You can bring your beer with you.
Yeah, you can bring your beer.
Oh, it's empty.
You should have flagged this down. We would have got you another one.
Hey,
I'm good.
thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes. We've had some pretty iconic coaches, but we've never had a coach that's taken a hockey NHL team to the Stanley Cup Finals. And we were talking a little bit about where Dale and I are from, and you were well aware of the Utica Comets or Mohawk Valley Comets back then. But just a little quick bio, and then I got some questions about the Florida Panthers and the Columbus Blue Jackets, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys. I suit the Salt&Pepper name here, I think, with the hair. So not as good looking as you guys, but obviously, close third.
Yeah.
So, Coach. So, as I said, Dale and I, Central New York, cold country. Even though basketball was big time, so was hockey. So at a very, very young age, we got acclimated to going at the time the Clinton Comets, now the Utica Comets. But you're from Canada, so I mean that's ingrained right from when you were born. That's you got exposed to hockey.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I heard the Clinton Comets. I remember I was working in hockey school in Brockville when I was like 17 or 18, and one of my friends played for the Clinton Comets. And I remember thinking, if I could ever get to play for the Clinton Comets, how cool would that be? But no, I grew up playing hockey and played in minor pro, and then ended up coaching for 20. I was in the NHL for probably 24 years. So it was, but it started as a kid in PEI, Prince Edward Island, East Coast of Canada, and I was lucky. I think I went 24 years in the NHL, never missed a paycheck.
Wow.
I didn't win any championships, but it was all about the paycheck.
Well, paychecks these days in hockey are big.
Oh, they are.
I mean, all the major sports are, they're unbelievable, the contracts that, these players are getting these days.
Yeah, it's amazing. My son actually is an agent, a hockey agent in Chicago, and that's my job now. I'm a part-time player agent advisor to my son. I think I get 5 calls a day, but how lucky are you when you have a 34-year-old son and I talk to him 5 times a day about his players? So that's all I really do, and play pickleball and golf. So it's perfect.
Well, speaking of pickleball, I know we talked about it earlier. I had experience of playing with pickleball last year in the charity that we've done, and you said you played about 4 matches a couple of days ago.
Knees are given out.
Different sports than we played. Pickleball, new sport coming out basically, and everybody's falling in love. I mean, there's a crave for pickleball in this area.
But what's really bad is when you've been involved in sports like you two guys all your lives and me all my life, you get on the pickleball court, and unfortunately that competitive drive hits you, and all of a sudden, I was getting my physical here recently. My doctor at Cleveland Clinic said 75% of my patients are pickleball guys. Right. So anyway, I think I'm getting too stiff from pickleball. It's hurt my golf game. But anyway, no, it's a great retirement sport, and I get a kick out of it. It's fun.
So, Doug, your background is you've been a coach. You've been on the administrative side, the management side, even I think the ownership side. But what was interesting to me was finding out you were part of the group that almost bought the Tampa Bay Lightning or brought it here, right? That was the first team in Florida, NHL team?
The Tampa Bay was the first team in here, and we came in, actually it was after I finished in Florida coaching, and after I finished as a president and GM in Columbus, we put in a bid. We didn't get it, but it was like a 6-month process. I don't know if I've ever worked as hard in my life in that 6 months trying to, we didn't get the deal, but I think about all the experiences, whether it was coaching or managing. The coaching is still what you love to do more than anything, and I look at, I guess I was an NHL coach for 14 years or so, and I think back to those days, it was it was just, that was as close to playing as you got, coaching. And I really, really enjoyed the coaching part. And I think back to all the players I coached, and, somebody said to me, what's the most important thing in coaching and coaching young players? And I said, especially for minor hockey or minor basketball, if the kids on the team want to play for you the next year, that means you've been a successful coach. That means that you're fair, you're honest, they feel they're learning something from you. So coaching is still sort of the number one thing, whether you're GM, president of the team. The coaching was still the most fun part if you're not a player.
Right. And with you saying that, I tried to retire from basketball several times as a player, and I came back 2 or 3 times and played a couple more seasons, and then trying to get away from the coaching side of it. And after watching kids play, and it's the passion and love of the sport that everybody says you're giving back to the sport, but you're giving the passion that you had to try to pass that on to another generation, to carry that on throughout life.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. It is.
Gentlemen?
It is.
Have a seat, Dina.
I gotta go.
All right, see you.
Busy?
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, I mean, giving back is such a big part of it. And, I admire the people that put the time and effort into working with kids, and there's nothing like it. If you see a kid improve, you see a kid go on and get an opportunity to play college, pro, that's the thrill of a lifetime. And I was thinking, back all the guys I coached and managed over my career, there's not one kid that I ever coached that I wouldn't be excited to meet and have a beer with. And, so many guys become bitter, and, it's all about how you treat people, and you hope that you taught them something in the game. But I was 24 years in the NHL, and I feel blessed that I had a chance to be in the game that long. And I coached college in Canada too as well. So it's been my whole life, coaching and managing, and it's, how do you beat that for a career?
Doug, you were the second coach, I believe, right, of the Florida Panthers?
Right.
And it wasn't, maybe a few years earlier was when the franchise became the Florida Panthers, right? How did you so quickly take a team to the Stanley Cup Finals?
It was kind of funny. I was coaching in Detroit with the Red Wings, and my boss, Brian Murray, was the general manager, and he got the GM job in Florida. And I'll never forget interviewing for the job. And it was my first head coaching job with the Panthers. And I remember sitting in a Bob's Big Boy in Detroit, and I looked at Brian Murray, was his name, who was a legend in the NHL as a coach and manager. And he said, "Why should I hire?" I said, "Brian, you'd be an idiot if you don't hire me. You'd be an idiot if you don't hire me, because we've been together so long." So I got the Panther job. 3rd year the franchise was in the NHL. I'll never forget phoning, when I got the job, phoning the captain, Brian Skrudlin was his name. And I said, "Hey, I just wanted to introduce myself." And he said, "Hey, Doug," he said, "let me tell you something. We got a good hockey team here in Florida. We're only in our 3rd year in the league, but we got a good team." And it was bizarre how that team had amazing veteran leadership, quality people, and we had an amazing run. I mean, in our 3rd year in in franchise history, and going to the Stanley Cup Final it was mind-boggling. I mean, we beat, first round, we beat the Boston Bruins, who were a great team. Then we played the Philadelphia Flyers with Lindros and Renberg, big team. We beat them, and then we went against Pittsburgh with Lemieux and Yager and all these stars, and we beat them in 7 games to go to the Stanley Cup Final. I'll never forget. We were on the bus going to the airport after we beat Pittsburgh in Game 7 to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Are you kidding me? I'm going to coach in the Stanley Cup Finals, and it was really my first year as a head coach. So it was just a thrill of a lifetime.
Was it always in Sunrise? Was that always?
No. When I was coaching the Panthers, we played out of the Miami Arena.
Okay.
And what was funny is I got the job, and they're saying, "Who's this? Nobody just got the job." And the Heat had had Pat Riley as the coach. And I thought, oh man, how embarrassing is this? Pat Riley, the legend, is coaching the Heat, and nobody's coaching the Panthers. And then Pat phoned me for tickets for the Stanley Cup Finals. And I thought, holy shit. Pat Riley's phoning me for tickets?
Right.
Probably could have got them anyway. But you know what? It was just an amazing experience. And it's something when I'm back in Canada or even in Delray, people still talk about that Stanley Cup run with the Panthers because it was such a young franchise to go that far. So it was a career maker for me. And it just was one of the greatest experiences you could ever have.
I'm just curious, how was the fan base back then?
You know what? It was Wayne Huizenga was the owner, who also owned the Dolphins and the Marlins at the same time. And we were sold out every game. I'll never forget, I'd be driving from Coral Springs to the game, and you know how you go through on the turnpike, I'd pull up to pay my 25 cents, and the guy said, oh, the guy in front of you just paid your toll. Because we became so big in South Florida. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And it just took, so that team actually was the reason the new building was built in Sunrise.
Okay.
And, so that was sort of the start of professional hockey in Florida. So it really was Wayne Huizenga. I'll never forget my president of the team, Bill Torrey was his name, who was a famous general manager of the Islanders. He said, Wayne's upset, because we went to the finals, and he said, we expected to win the Stanley Cup the next year. I said, tell Wayne to give Jimmy Johnson hell with the Marlins and Leland. Leave me alone. They're your big teams. Don't bug me. But anyway, we had a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of the facility in Sunrise, we were there a few weeks ago, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what a beautiful atmosphere they had there, indoors and outdoors. And it was just, something that, I've never seen at any sporting venue at all.
So the question is, though, they didn't have a sellout when we went, but I heard attendance is increasing.
Yeah.
So there was a lull, or
it was so, we were sold out probably 3 or 4 years in a row. And I'll tell you what, Wayne Huizenga sold the team, and they have had not mismanagement, but misownership. Like, compared to what Wayne Huizenga was for an owner, they thought every owner buys a team nowadays, and they're billionaire guys that buy these teams, and they think it's easy to build a winner. And it's not like building your business that you've made all your money in. It's just sports is different, and they really struggle, in my opinion, from an ownership perspective in South Florida, and it's really hurt the Panthers. So hopefully they get it right now. Vinny Viola is the owner, and he's, they seem to be on the right track. So hopefully they get back on track. But it's been a grind for the Panthers.
So we're a non-politically correct sports talk show. So what was your opinion on the I forgot his name, but they went to the woke rainbow color, and he refused to do his stick.
Well, you know what? It was Provorov in Philadelphia. They wanted the team to wear the pride jerseys and warm up, and he wouldn't, and because he's a Russian kid, and he said it was against his religion. You know what? To me, I don't get why we have to go there. Why we have to do that in a warm up of prior to an NHL game, and it put all kinds of pressure on the organization, on the kid, and it just, you know what, I'm sort of middle of the road here, and I don't get why we have to go there and cause all these problems that aren't necessary. I mean, it's all about the game.
Yeah, it should be all.
Seems to be going in a different direction.
It's every sport. There's too much politics in the sports, and it's not politics from the sports owners or the players or anything. It's politics outside of sports, and actually from our governors.
Yeah, and to me, it seems like it's a fleeting moment, right? Like, if you look at the NFL and the production they put out for the Super Bowl, it was flags and this, and it was all nostalgia and for the country. But at the time, it's like a fleeting moment, and it causes, in my opinion, a lot of issues of diehard people that believe in the sport or a team.
Yeah, and you know what, like the NHL is battling diversity nonstop. I mean, very few black players in the NHL, but in fairness, I coached black players with every team I was with, and they were great players, great teammates, but it's challenging because they have other options, and hockey is not easy. It's an expensive sport to play. It's not easy to be as inclusive, but they're working hard at it. There's some great young players in the NHL that come from, that are black kids that have become stars in the NHL, and I think it's great. But it's just, it's not their number one sport. I mean, football, basketball in the U.S. are still so far ahead of hockey at a minor level, although there's certain pockets in the U.S. where hockey's become, Michigan is a great hockey area now. Illinois is a great hockey area. Minnesota is a great, and so it's really evolving, and we're getting great athletes playing the sport. And so I hope, but I talked to my son in Chicago. I mean, for a family to put a kid in AAA, which is the top level of minor hockey, it costs families $15,000, $20,000, $25,000.
Yeah,
So it's challenging in spots, but they've done a good job of it, and we've got some great young players in the game. And hockey's still a distant third in the U.S. as a pro sport, but we've made great inroads, and I think they got to keep striving.
We talk all the time about when we played and how we played and the IQ we applied and what we see today. And Dale's coaching it right now, and everyone's trying to compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan. Right. In hockey, like where do you fall on when you were coaching or playing as to the talent level today, but more importantly, how the game's played and thought through?
The kids today are so much more skilled and talented than even when I coached the Panthers. I mean, I think back, I was the NHL All-Star coach a couple of years, and I'll never forget, I was coaching Wayne Gretzky, and Wayne Gretzky was on the team, greatest player to ever play the game, one of the greatest players to ever play the game, if not the greatest. So just to tell you what type of guy Wayne Gretzky was, I was coaching the All-Star game. My son had this great stick collection when I was coaching in Detroit. He had Fedorov and Yzerman's sticks and Lindros's stick and Lemieux's stick. So I phoned Wayne Gretzky's agent, Mike Burnett, and I said, any chance you'd bring one of Gretzky's silver Easton sticks? My son's got a great stick collection. He was 9 at the time. So Wayne shows up at the All-Star game, comes in the office, and said, here's the stick for your son. And Clark's, my son was 9 at the time, he's sitting there with me, and Wayne said, here's your stick. And my son's eyes just, so anyway, we do the game, play the game. Clark was my stick boy on the bench during the game. And after the game, Wayne Gretzky, the greatest player, the Michael Jordan of the NHL, calls Clark over in the dressing room and said, hey, Clark, you were great. You were great helping out, and takes off his game-worn NHL jersey, signs it to Clark, your friend Wayne Gretzky, and gives it to him. Now, tell me another athlete that would ever think to do that for a 9-year-old. So then I meet Wayne 2 years later in Columbus at a big opening there, and I went up to him. I said, Wayne, I still can't believe you gave Clark that jersey. And he said, well, I hope he's really enjoying it, because he said, I'm still in shit with the NHL for giving it to him. Well, so the players are the greatest part of our game. Yes. They are what makes it. They're making a lot of money today. But you know what? It's so hard to become an NHL player, an NBA player, an NFL player. We know how hard it is to play college. Yeah. How good you have to be to play Division I college. Or Division II college, and the NHL is the very same. So few make it, and the dedication you have to put in there. Then the thing I like about the NHL players is they're still good guys, and that's what I admire mostly about the guys I've watched today and the guys I've been involved with.
Yeah, well, speaking of Wayne Gretzky, Don Perry, the owner of the Jacob Companies, built the Banyan Cave Resort, and that's where Wayne plays every day.
Right.
So he's there the whole day, enjoying retirement, like we are here. So maybe Salt&Pepper and Doug and Wayne, we could kick it through Don. Don can set that up. So.
Well, Wayne, I know I'd heard he moved up here to Jupiter, and I used to run into him in Toronto quite a bit. He's just a fabulous guy, and I know he loves his golf. And Mario Lemieux, but I got just an unbelievable bad story to tell you about Mario Lemieux. So I'm playing Seagate Country Club here in Delray a couple of weeks ago. So buddy, actually I was playing with a basketball guy, Jack Armstrong, who's with the Raptors color analyst. So we're playing, and we finished 9 holes. And I noticed we're holding this couple up just on the 9th hole. They caught up to us, and so this guy pulls up in his cart, and I was just going to say, hey, go ahead and go through. And he said, hey, Doug, how you doing? And I said, I looked. I said, sorry, do I know you? And he said, for Christ's sake, Doug, it's Mario Lemieux. So Jack looks at me and he said, just a minute, you didn't recognize Mario and he recognizes you? Right. So Mario's a member at Seagate, but he's also a member of Pine Tree. So we had a great guy. I thought, oh my God, how bad is that they didn't recognize Mario Lemieux? So I was doing a show in Toronto, a radio show in Toronto, and I was telling them the story, and they said, oh my God, Doug. Well, and then they ended the show saying, Doug, by the way, Wayne Gretzky's down in Florida. If you happen to run into him, make sure you recognize him. You dummy. So anyway,
that is a great story, and I'll tell you what, I've been here 8 years, and you do run into. And this gentleman has just popped his way in. Dino, he's Lawrence Taylor's best friend.
Oh, okay.
And he actually happens to be my neighbor, and he's here all the time. Yeah. And we got to get him on because he's got some crazy stories. But Coach, this is one of our best shows. We really appreciate coming right off the golf, and you had a good round today.
Yeah, I lost $12. Like,
okay.
I have an 82, and I'm like, I started playing here 3 years ago with a 27 handicap, and now well, that's what, when you're retired, like you get, I'm still no damn good, but
82 is pretty good.
I'll take it today.
But we really appreciate you taking the time. Before you leave, get another beer on us. And again, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure, and good luck with the
really great
show.
All right, thank you.
Man.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you around.
Yeah, take care, man.
All right. That was great.
Oh, very good. Gives us another perspective on other sports other than our basketball and football. We've tried to bring special guests on from various sports and various walks of life. And speaking of different sports, but getting back to our main sport, we're going to have a teammate of mine on in a minute, Hal Cohen, who I played with at Syracuse for 3 years, and he's got an interesting situation going on. His daughter's a high school or a college coach at Potsdam, where Ed played. So we'll get a little feed on that, and we'll get Hal on here in a minute.
There he is, the iconic sports figure of the North Country.
I gotta get that Potsdam shirt there. There we go.
There you go.
Hey, not to put pressure on, but we're in 10 countries. Saudi Arabia just locked in, and 50 states.
Nice.
And because nobody can hear our emergency press conference at the Syracuse Legends golf tournament, we thought it was a good interview. I don't know if we can replicate that here.
Well, I'll try.
So I appreciate you coming on this morning. Did your daughter have a game yesterday?
Yes, they did. But before I get to that, I got to say that they made the playoffs at the SUNYAC Conference for the first time in, I think, 14 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Wow.
And so that was nice. And so they played Tuesday night at Oneonta. And so it was a very nice accomplishment for that team, and I'm very happy for my daughter.
Yeah, we had mentioned. I don't know if you saw our interview with Coach Maclean, but we talked about the Cuse game yesterday, and then my alma mater finished up the season again. I think only winning 8 games. I don't know if they won yesterday, but it's disheartening, pretty much year after year, to see the results, right? As to what, at least I feel, I was part of building up. But to hear that about your daughter, that's great news. That's positive news from my alma mater.
Yeah. No, they I think before she got there, they were 9-90 or something like that. So she's moving in the right direction.
Yes, yeah.
If we could just get a couple more Utica Notre Dame kids,
I don't, well, maybe on the girls' side.
Yeah.
I don't know about the talent on the boys' side.
We actually we talked about Notre Dame too, and I think they only won 4 or 5 games this year, which is an improvement from the 1 or 2 last year. It's just, it's the legacy kids and families not staying around, right? And I think the graduating class, they had like 32 boys or something. So where we used to get the top kids from the surrounding, towns and cities, at Notre Dame, they're staying, they're staying with their respective school district. But anyways, did you watch the Cuse game yesterday?
Yeah, I did. It's interesting, we graduated. Shaq, how long ago was that? Like 100 years ago?
40 plus, I'll put it that way.
But it's interesting how I have 4 daughters, and my sisters and my family, we always followed. I mean, that was nice staying in Syracuse and being a part of that. We followed them, even up till yesterday. We watch all the games on TV, and my family does, and so I thought they were playing pretty good up till yesterday. Not so great yesterday, but they've had some good games where they've been very competitive. But it seems like there's a little bit of difference in size and talent there in terms of yesterday's game that we couldn't overcome.
Hey, Hal, we're a show that's politically incorrect, so you can say exactly what you feel. You don't have to be nice. I talked to Roosevelt earlier, and Rosie doesn't swear or anything, but he had some choice words about the way we played defensively and yesterday. And I talked to Coach Fine also, and we just don't. I don't know. We just don't seem to get these kids to understand the principles of how to play a zone, or the movement in it, or even just the simple things of keeping your hands up. Guys are running out at shooters and they got their hands down by their side instead of having their hand up in their face, or even having their arms out to discourage passes into the high post. That seems too easily. And then we talked about the press. You're pressing, and I know with us, we were always taught, well, once that ball goes past you, you got to sprint back to the center of the court and get back out and play defense. These guys are just turn and jog back down the floor, and people are getting open jump shots and second chance shots on rebounds and everything else. So Jesse can only do so much in the middle. He needs a lot of help around him, and unfortunately, this is a senior year. Maybe he'll decide to take that 5th-year option and come back to Syracuse. But they've got some still have some work to do, and hopefully they can bounce back from this game. I think they play Clemson next game, and get a win there.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure that out myself in terms of when you used to watch Syracuse, whenever you played a team that wasn't in the league, and then it seemed like they didn't know how to play basketball when they played against our zone. So I'm wondering, maybe it's not. I mean, in part, obviously, it's us, but maybe the teams in the league are practicing against that zone to and obviously with all you got every single game and analytics and breaking things down and how to break the zone and what's the best ways to do it. And teams are seem to be very comfortable with our zone now. And so I don't know if I just go back to my a friend of mine coached Jaysville DeWitt High School, Bob McKinney.
Right. Yeah.
And they used to play Mexico every year. And Mexico High School had the flex offense down to since they were in kindergarten, they were running the flex offense. And nobody could stop them. And this is a little town, Mexico, and nobody could stop them. So what he did from day one of practice, every day they practiced against the flag, even though they didn't play Mexico to the end of the year or maybe even to the playoffs. They were doing it every day to prepare for them. So I don't know if teams are also doing the same thing, saying, hey, you know, we're going to play Syracuse at some point. We're not going to just wait to the night before and start practicing against it. So, and they've got guys, you know, they got analytics and all the you know, film and everything to figure out how to get shots and be successful again. Because that's one thing I noticed about teams before. They just looked like they didn't know what to do. Now it seems like they know what to do, and I guess maybe we're not as long, perhaps, you know, at every position that we used to be. So maybe it's a combination of both. But I bet you it's a lot of it has to do with the offensive side of it, is that they have figured out what's the best option, you know, what's the best way to get shots.
Well, I mean, everybody's doing the same thing, getting the ball into the high post. You know, we have no one that's you know, taking that entry pass away at the high post, and then that puts pressure on the back line.
Yeah.
One of our viewers checking in here, big Hughes fan, and said that Gerard and Mins combined for 39 points. But the issue he has is they had 2 assists. You know, so yeah, I was telling Dale earlier too in our opening segment that you know, if you're, you know, 6 minutes in, you have a 4 possession game. Yeah, I get the whole trapping zone defense, but once you fall back into half court, I mean, a well-coached team can just pass the ball. Even if they don't shoot at the basket, you're cutting the game in half to 180 seconds, right? And then you got to be perfect on the offensive line. So at some point, right, in my opinion, you got to man up or do something. What do you think about that?
And I think from a coaching standpoint, I've never been a coach, and I don't ever want to be a coach. But if I was playing Syracuse, I mean, I guess you got to always figure out who's the key guy. Like for us, if you stop Dale Shackelford, we were in trouble, you know. So for them, for this year's team, I would just never let Gerard get the ball, and see if these other guys, everybody else can figure out, you know. So everybody's making it very difficult for him to get easy shots, and so I mean, you got to figure out how to get these other guys involved, and I think the Brown has done a great job, but now I think the more that he's playing a lot longer, you know, now before it was a surprise how well he was playing, you know, now now there's a lot of pressure. Now there's a lot of pressure on him to produce, and sometimes when you come off the bench and you start playing pretty well, it's hard to keep that going, and so you got to figure out how to get other people involved, I suppose. But
now, Hal, when we played, you know, Roosevelt asked me this earlier. You know, we never had practices where you know, Coach Boeheim taught us how to rebound, or Coach Boeheim taught us how to set screens. You know, that all came from the assistant coaches, and mainly with us it was Bernie Fine. And I don't see anybody actually, you know, setting screens or making contact on screens. I mean, we ran our orange offense, and you know, once we get a down screen, I'm quite sure you, Marty, and you know, whoever was coming off those screens knew that you were possibly going to be open. Not, you know, 50% of the time, probably 90% of the time that you're going to be open because of that down screen. And you just don't see that with these guys right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's back then. It was, I don't know. Maybe you played more fundamental basketball, and you learned. Well, a good example was Coach Welsh from Potsdam. You know, we started at an early age of, you know, learning how to do things the correct way, and how, you know, how to set a good screen, and how to get yourself open, and he was very big on all that fundamentals, and so I mean, you know, I don't know what grade we were, 7th, 8th grade, starting to go to camp at Potsdam State, and we really learned a lot, you know. So we had a lot of you know, teaching from our high school coach as well, Coach Harham, very excellent coach on fundamentals and how to do these things. And I don't know, maybe everybody gets the AAU business, everybody keeps talking about the AAU business and I know a lot of the high school coaches, Coach McKenney is very, is shaking his head at the kids that just kind of coming down, running down the court, shooting the ball, and nobody's, so, and the kids are now spending more time with AAU coaches than they are with their own coaches, and
Yeah, we see that a lot down here too, and that was one of the biggest things with me is kids are, it's all about dribble, and jack up a three, and they forget about all the other parts of the game. We went through it all season. We couldn't make an entry pass. We got guys posting up, and we got players that can't pass the ball inside. And the main thing was they never look. You get the ball, and you want to just keep it on the perimeter, but the inside game has gone away a lot from high school basketball, especially down in this area, where when we played, and then years afterwards. That was, probably a lot of teams' bread and butter was, getting that ball inside and establishing that inside game. And now that outside game becomes a lot easier.
Speaking of Coach McKinney, Hal's bringing him up, a friend of his. He'd be a great guest in the future. Having to get Pat Donnelly on here, maybe Mike Durr, talk about three post, college, coach or post teammates or, that became high school coaches that really left their mark in Central New York basketball. But hey, I got a question. You're not a coach, but your daughter is. What is her feeling on the NIL? I don't know if it reaches down to that level. And what's your opinion on it overall? Because we talk college sports isn't going to be nowhere close to what we experienced.
I mean, it's I don't, because Division III has always been, you could
purity.
You could switch teams,
right.
As soon as the season's over, I had a friend went to Potsdam, then next year he's starting at St. Lawrence, so there was always that going on for the Division III level, but it wasn't, in terms of the money business, but the ability to transfer. Well, that's what you got two things, right? The NIL and then the ability to just change teams. And speaking of that, it did affect Potsdam State, because Potsdam State, what was it, 3 years ago, went to the finals of the SUNYAC championship game, they had a player that transferred in who became, and I forget his name now, but he was the MVP of the league, and he came in. He had like 3 practices, and I go to the game and I said, "Hey, his name is Leaky. It was Leaky," and that was his nickname. And he said, "How do you do?" I asked how he did. He said, "He had 35 points." I go, "Wow." He goes, "Yeah," and he doesn't know any of the plays. he just got there. He was that good. But by the end of the year, after the year was over, he was only a sophomore. Could have played 2 more years at Potsdam, but went to a scholarship school. So it can affect the Division III level, the better players. I'm sure, a lot of teams are looking at the better players and saying, "Hey, come play with us." So yeah, it's definitely changed the game. Maybe not as much as the Division III, but still does affect it. And here you go. Now at Potsdam, it's hard enough to get, you got to get good players. And once you get one, you like to be able to keep them. But I think even at that level, if you could pick off a few of the better players, they can affect a higher level, Division II or Division I team. But I guess my question is, when do we get our money, Shaq? Who's going to be the first one to go retroactive and say, wait a minute?
Well, I say that all the time.
Remember that big poster at Manly when you walk in the door and there's Shaq? That's what drew everybody in there. So
I say that all the time. They need to, get us, little retro for back in the day. Even if they just paid us for the wins, that would be good.
Well, I think for anybody that ever played at any level, $1 million each would be fine.
Yeah. I wouldn't complain.
No, I don't know. It's it sounds crazy. I mean, it sounds like it'd be a tough time to be a coach, especially if you came from the old school era and then now maybe the younger guys are loving this, in terms of if you're out there running, or, if you're aggressive, young coach who wants to win and you're all over the place, and doing. It just seems like there's so many gray lines of what's supposed to happen, and nobody really knows.
So at 1 p.m. today, Miami Hurricanes women's basketball plays at Syracuse.
Okay.
And Miami had the Cavender twins that transferred in from San Jose. And they are social media, darlings, right? They got nil. I mean, what they're doing down here, and Miami's such a big, media base, right? And the financial returns on what is mind-boggling, right? And they're good players, right? My question, I talk to you about this all the time. You take this to D1 football specifically, is they're recruiting with these nil packages, monetary packages. What if the person isn't performing? What does the coach do, right? It's almost like you're going to have them and their team, so to speak, or their entourage. Do you play them because they got, they're getting paid this money? Or that's where I can't wrap my head around as a coach. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it seems like there has to be a little bit more clarity of what you can do and can't do, and somehow to monitor it. But I guess it's one of those things. If everybody's saying it's okay, then the coaches are going to just have to say, wait a minute, if this is the way it's going to be, then I've got to adjust, And again, maybe for the older coaches who are kind of set in their ways, and maybe they had it good the way they had their system was already set up for them, how they did everything, and they got to the point where they didn't need to do a lot, and maybe a lot of the assistant coaches doing all the work, and now all this thing's going to change, for the way they had it set up in terms of how successful they were. Now they're going to have to adjust, and maybe if you're an older, been around for a long time, maybe you don't want to adjust, and maybe like some of these coaches are now starting to get out. And so I don't know.
Well, I think the thinking about this a lot, the NIL money and stuff comes from other avenues, other ventures, not from the university or the athletic department or whatever. So me as a coach, I'm not obligated to play this player just because you paid money for him to come to this institution. If it's a kid that I've recruited really hard to come to school there, and he came on his own merits, and now all of a sudden you want to pay him all this money because he's a star player, then that's on you, because if the kid's not going to perform the way I recruited him to perform, then I'm not going to play him. I don't care how much money you're giving him, because it's not coming out of our pockets as a university or whatever. So,
But
what are you going to do? You're going to get the kid to transfer to another school.
But if I'm that business guy giving the money, and am I going to do it for the next guy you're trying to recruit against North Carolina or whatever? That's where it gets murky to me.
Well, yeah, but if the coaches are asking, this guy to put the money up, then that's a different situation.
Well,
and we don't know that per se. But I think a lot of these, we mentioned AAU. I think a lot of these AAU coaches and programs are making money off of this NIL now, as opposed to years ago where some of them were getting coaching jobs, different universities and stuff, and that because of certain players going to that college. So now these AAU coaches can sit back and collect a paycheck and stay at home and groom the next one instead of going and working hard, at a college, in practices and in games.
hey, I had an unofficial NIL deal in the 70s and early 80s with Syracuse.
Is that right?
And the whiskey one, and more. I think it was Morgan's. The guy Didi owned it. Crazy times. But yeah, that's crazy sports going on, but it's great to hear that your daughter has the women's team in the Suniacs. What are like top 2 or 3 memories at Syracuse, big games or whatever? I told you in the last emergency press conference, Hal Cohen emergency press conference at the Weston Golf Club, that your dad, came across as the cool, calm, and collective coach on that bench, right? But when you were on TV and we were traveling, he was on pins and needles and so forth. What is your memories of Syracuse? Two biggest memories.
Well, I mean, if you take, I suppose, individual games, let's say, I mean, games that we obviously played well was, I mean, the most important thing was the overall, just the overall experience playing at that level, not knowing that I could play there and then getting there and then, struggling your freshman year, but then getting to, play as you get to, practice and get better. And just the friends of Rosie and Shaq and Lou and Marty Burns and Marty, it was just a great group of coaches we had. And we had Bernie and Patino and Coach Malone, Coach Bay. It was just a great overall experience. And then in terms of individual games, I don't know if you've mentioned these already, but I'm sure obviously playing Michigan State our sophomore year, and with Irvin Johnson, Magic Johnson, and they had all that hype coming in, and he was the number 1 player in the country and 6'9" point guard, and we ended up beating them in the finals of the Carrier Classic, and then we got to see Coach Boeheim and his first explosion, post-game explosion, because the local writers and media people voted for the MVP, and they gave it to Magic Johnson, even though Marty Burns had 20 points and 10 rebounds, and we won the game. And Magic Johnson had a good game. I think he had 18 points or something, and maybe had 9 assists, but I think he also had 9 turnovers. So
was that at the Carrier or man?
Carrier.
The Carrier.
That was the Carrier Classic at Stanley Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he, I think he might have tossed a chair at that, because all the writers fell in love with Magic Johnson and voted him the MVP. And then there was and then it happened to Marty. It happened to Marty again. And that same year, we were out in New Mexico, which is probably one of the best teams we ever played. I just remember sitting there, and the first few minutes of the game, we're getting dunked on left and right, and 18,000 people at this, they called it the Pit out in New Mexico. This is also our sophomore year, and we ended up winning. And Marty Burns again had 20 points and 10 rebounds, and Michael Cooper, who was their best player, ended up playing for the Lakers, and he had a good game, I guess. And they named him the MVP, and we won, and we won the tournament. And I mean, there were many games, but it just the whole, although we ended on a tough note, losing to Georgetown for the breaking the 50 game or whatever win streak that was a tough game, but it was nice to, even though in a losing effort, it was nice to be involved in that, because even to this day, my daughter ended up going to Georgetown, and I went to visit, and I walked over to the McDonough Arena, which is the on-campus basketball court where they practiced, the Georgetown team. They built a new wing, and as you come into the building or as you leave the building, there's one huge picture. There's no players on this picture. This is in Georgetown. All there is a picture of the scoreboard, 52-50, as you exit the building. And that's the last thing you see as you go exit. So that was how big a moment that was for them to have that picture there. And then on the side, there's a writing about the game and whatever. But so to be involved in that was great. So many good stories.
Well, Hal, there's another good story there. Remember we played against Temple in the Palestra?
Yes.
And I think you might have taken a shot or something, and lightning struck the building and knocked the lights out.
Is that true story?
Yeah.
Wow.
True story. The whole building went black. It had a big boom, sparks coming off the wall, and I think we, other than the shock of the game, I think we did end up winning that game against Temple. But that was that was the experience we had.
Yeah, that was a big game because they were ranked in the whatever top, and that also is a little bit different between this year, the present day than in the past. That game Temple was like in the top 20 and we were in the top 20, and it was a big game for the East type of thing. But we only really played about, I would say, 5 or 6 games like that. Whereas Syracuse nowadays, I mean, they, being in the Big East or the ACC, seems like you're playing top 20 teams, every other game. And so.
Yeah, but you guys didn't lose to Lemoyne or Cornell.
Or Colgate.
Your point's taken, but there's the other side of that too back in the day. But this is great. I appreciate you taking. So I got two final questions. One is you got the fan going on, so that's a sure sign you're a Florida native now, right? So you're up in the Melbourne area or Cocoa Beach area?
We're about half an hour above Daytona Beach.
Okay.
In a place called Palm Coast.
Okay, so the big Daytona 500 is happening.
Yeah.
So our main sponsor, the Jacob Companies, Don Perry's the owner. He built stadiums, MetLife, Patriot Stadium, Hard Rock, the casino. He also owns a NASCAR team. So it's the Rick Ware Racing. He's got 2 cars in it. Since you're in that area, do you follow NASCAR, Hal?
No, I've never been. I've never been a NASCAR guy, but I did bump into somebody yesterday, the other day, and so we got to talking, and he said he just retired there, and I forgot his name and everything. He says, yeah, he drove in many NASCAR, races and stuff at Daytona, and I didn't catch his name or anything, but so
I was going to say, so my other question is, in the emergency press conference we did with you at the Syracuse Legends Golf Tournament, it was hard, the audio was hard because it was, and I remember you saying that number 10 at Potsdam was, in your opinion, the best point guard that came out of that college. So now that we got the right platform and we can all hear and there's no noise, I just want you to repeat that.
Didn't Mike Dean wear number 10?
No, Mike Dean never won a national championship. So
no,
I just want to mention that those people that couldn't hear that comment by you. So.
Oh, there's no question. I say this all the time. And you, Pony Bullock, who else do we have? Derek, obviously. Just a ton of players. I would come back from college. From Syracuse and go to Potsdam in the break during the summer and the breaks, and there was no difference between those guys I just mentioned than the guys that we were playing at Division I level, and you guys were definitely Division I players playing at a Division III team.
But I tell them
but I just want I'm just focused on the comment you made at that Weston. That's all. I don't care about anybody else. But
what was my comment again? Number 10, was that you? You 10?
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. The finest point guard to come out of Potsdam State. But
I think there's no question. I hope Mike Dean's not listening.
Hal, you don't drink, do you?
No, not yet.
Well, that might, I thought maybe you were drunk if we said that about the number 10.
Hey, performance and results. But
I wish you guys had played. You know, St. Lawrence did that a couple. Did you guys ever play a Division I? Yes, you guys. No, they didn't.
No. I know. Welsh tried to get teams, but he was not successful in doing so.
Yeah.
I know he really tried to do that. I remember Whittier. Were you on?
Whittier, we played Whittier.
Yeah, they came from California. They were a D3 team, and I don't know what year you guys were. I might have been a freshman, but when Welsh saw that, he did make an effort, but I don't know if he pissed off a lot of coaches or he just wasn't successful in trying to get.
Maybe they were afraid to lose to you.
There's no question. I mean, because I remember St. Lawrence. I think every year they tried to schedule somebody. Like they played Iona and they played Colgate and Cornell, maybe Cornell, but and those were always. I think they beat a couple of people. But I think you guys would have had a great chance of beating some of those Division I teams.
So around March Madness, the final game, we're going to do a Sunday show. We're going to get Derek on. We get Coach Kamak on and Coach Bouye and myself, and Dale's going to narrate it. And the title's going to be the real story behind the 1981 championship.
Ooh.
So, the documentary was a great tribute to Jerry and all the success, but some things need to be level set. And we'll let you know, Hal. We might even bring you on as a surrogate.
Yeah, there we go.
But,
Man.
We'll let you know.
Scandalous.
Hey,
Always.
if you drive 3 hours south, let us know. We'll do golf here at the Delray Beach Golf Club where our show's shot out of. And you were great, man. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
Al, it's always good seeing you.
Shaq, good seeing you. And everybody knows that you were the original Shaq, right?
Yes, sir.
The original.
So wait a minute. So Shaq, the newest Shaq, owes you money.
Well, he spells it wrong anyway.
For using your name.
Okay. Yeah. I said that to him when he was up at Syracuse back in the day when Nancy Cantor was the chancellor. And he was in Club 44 because he was taking the class at Newhouse for broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to him, I'm the original Shaq. It's S-H-A-C-K, not a Q. And he taps me on the head and he says, okay, little fella. So, I conceded to him then, but I'm going to be loud and proud about it right now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be your host if you come to Delray Beach. You and your wife will get you around to golf, and we'll get the Salt&Pepper Sports Talk Show wardrobe sponsor is Let's Go Golf. We'll get you suited up.
All right. If there's any women high school players out there that want to have fun and play good basketball, let's go to Potsdam.
Well, my high school Cardinal Gibbons girls team are going to the state finals this week. Well, not the finals, but the semis. They're in the Final Four. They just won the Big Eight, the district, and the regional. So there's some good girls there. So we might be able to hook you up with the coach there, so you can talk to some of the players.
Allegiant Air goes right to Ogdensburg. Let's go.
Yes.
Actually, didn't a kid you coached last year went somewhere up in Maine or somewhere?
Yeah, Colby Sawyer.
Yeah.
Daniel Jordan.
Yeah, so they do go north to the frigid weather.
And then George Papadakis' son is up in Maine at a prep school.
Okay.
Does Hal know you coached his son?
I'm not sure. Did you know I had George's son last year?
What's that?
George Papadakis, his son Johnny played for us last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I think I did hear that. How tall is he?
He's about 6'7".
Okay. He's probably still growing.
He probably is. Yeah. He's a good kid. He can shoot the ball. Got to get him a little stronger so he can rebound a little better. But other than that, he's a good player.
Hey Hal, this didn't interrupt your walk. Don't you do a daily walk?
Well, I do a daily walk. I'm doing it afterwards, but I now that you talked about NASCAR, I think I might have to get a bike. I might have to get a car. It's all flat, right? You don't have to go up on a bank or anything like that, right?
God knows, I don't know.
No,
Do you know? I don't know. I don't know. We just want to pump our sponsor. Don's a great guy. So
Yeah, no, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna get a car.
yeah,
I'm gonna-
it'll
A number
say
10,
Jake.
number 10 car.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, you and I alike. But thanks again, man. This has been
All
great.
right.
We really
All right,
appreciate it.
have a good day.
All right.
See
take
you
care.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Good job.
All right, Pepper. Great show. One
Yeah,
of our
very good
better
show.
ones.
Very good
And
show.
the rest of the afternoon, I think we're going to relax, go home. My wife will be back tomorrow. She's in the Bahamas on a business meeting. And I'm going to relax. You're welcome to come over for a Knights of Columbus salt soak. Smoke some cigars.
Well, I was gonna say something about Knights of Columbus, but I'll wait till we're off the air.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Next time, same Sunday, right?
Yes, sir.
And we'll let you know who's going to be on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Salt out.
Pepper out.